Welcome to the WARC podcast. I'm Ann Marie Kerwin, America's editor, and today we are joined by Laura Jones, CMO of Instacart. This is for our series of interviews, The Effective CMO. I've been talking about Instacart's journey from a performance marketing focused organization to a brand building believer for the last 6 months as WARC's advocate for the multiplier effect. So I'm very excited to have the chance to talk to Laura today about how she and her team are doing since they've started to see the benefits of branding. Thank you so much for being here, Laura. It's so good to see you. I've been talking about the Instacart story all year, talking about the multiplier effect. So it's really exciting to talk to you in person about it.
Thank you for having me.
This is our Effective CMO series. And as a marketing leader, I wanted to ask, what is your philosophy of effectiveness?
My philosophy of effectiveness is that you have to do both demand capture and demand generation. It's not enough to just invest in upper funnel and do big splashy brand campaigns, but it's also not enough to just invest in lower funnel and obsess over channel level ROAS. You really have to put the full funnel together so that you can create demand and then capture it when people come looking for you.
And that wasn't always something that Instacart was doing when you first got there, right?
When I first got there, it was 2021 and it was kind of the tail end of COVID. And so they had this amazing luxury of a pandemic creating demand for them. And so really didn't yet have the need for that demand generation. It was really kind of easy to capture demand or, relatively easy. I want to give full respect to the people that built the infrastructure because there was a ton of hard work that went into that. But once it was up and running, there were a lot of people searching for online grocery delivery. But as the pandemic waned and as people were returning to their normal habits, we realized it's critical that we now generate demand for this category. We can't assume that lower funnel will keep providing returns. It really required us to think about actually going out and thinking about who were the people that we could bring into the market that weren't in it, or people who might have tried it during the pandemic, but now weren't using it. So how could we create that consideration and that purchase intent and bring them back into the category and back to Instacart?
And so I noticed from the ad that I've been playing in all my multiplier effect presentations that the brand platform seems to be being able to do what you want instead of having to go grocery shopping, right? So this freedom, it gives you freedom. So how have you been using that idea of freeing up your time throughout the brand platform?
That's exactly right. Our brand promise is we take care of the groceries so you can take care of life. And that has different meanings for different people. A lot of our customers are busy heads of household. So for them, it might be freeing up that mental load of having to go to the grocery store and check every item off the list and make sure you're not forgetting anything, and doing that at the expense of having a Sunday with your children and going out and actually enjoying yourself. Or other kinds of customers that are coming to us perhaps because they have mobility limitations or they work multiple jobs and don't have time to go to the grocery store. So it's really about this idea that we're here so you can be right there.
And so how are you prioritizing effectiveness when you're talking about brand strategy with all your partners that you work with and internally when you're thinking through ideas?
Effectiveness is always top of mind for us. We have to make every dollar work really hard. We always say we need to have a disproportionate share of the conversation so that we can go out there and continue to be the market leader. So for us, effectiveness is the name of the game, whether we're talking about big upper funnel work or pulling it all the way through to even in-app incentives. We really want to make sure that the full funnel is working together. And because we're a four-sided marketplace, we don't just have to think about growth in terms of the dollars flowing through the marketplace. We also have to think about the monetization of that and revenue coming from advertisers. So we have to really think about all four sides of the marketplace and how they can work together. And what we've learned is that we actually have more impact on all sides of the marketplace when we have a single big tent pole rooted in a stretchy platform that lets us all row in the same direction. So instead of having performance marketers doing one thing over here and brand marketers doing something else, and the folks on the revenue side running separate promotions, we learned through our Super Bowl efforts that when we have a big focal point and everyone arranges all the work that they're doing and aligns it against that platform, we do get that multiplier effect and we see greater growth, greater brand lift, and greater revenue.
And so you were in the Super Bowl this year. Was that the first time you were in the Super Bowl?
It was our debut.
So how did that conversation go?
So I joined Instacart 4 years ago, and it took about 3.5 years to go from zero brand budget to convincing everyone to invest in a Super Bowl ad. And so it was a long journey and not an easy one. And we had to really go through a lot of learning along the way, learning that we couldn't have the funnel operate separately. We couldn't have performance ad and brand ads. We needed to have integrated campaigns, learning what it looks like to measure integrated campaigns and how to goal them and move from channel level ROAS to portfolio level ROAS, and ultimately showing through the Olympics the prior year that we could move top line growth metrics with high reach media. And so once all those pieces had come into place, the pump was really primed to go to our CEO and our CFO and say, hey, it's our time. We're ready to go to the Super Bowl, and this is going to be big for our business. And it was. We had a 72% lift in new to site visitors through the Super Bowl and increased our sales 14% year over year the week around the Super Bowl, really paying off this idea that the full funnel campaign, everything from the television ads all the way down through the incentives and promotions that we ran, worked together to drive that measurable outcome.
And so I also noticed that you brought in some other brands into it. So do you want to talk a little bit about how that came about? Because I know sometimes getting clearance to use other brand mascots is not the easiest thing in the world to do.
We are a platform, and that means that we wouldn't exist without our partners. So we have retail partners, we have shoppers, we have customers, and of course, we have advertisers, the brands that sit on our platform. And we now have over 8,000 brands advertising on our platform. And our goal with Super Bowl was to come up with the biggest, boldest idea that still stayed true to our We're Here platform. And as the idea began to coalesce and we realized that we really wanted to break through in a way that was different from a lot of the other advertisers out there. And we decided that we would kind of force ourselves to come up with an idea that didn't rely on celebrity. That was core to the brief. No celebrity as the kind of anchor of the campaign. They could
But
be
you
in
did
there.
have the Doughboy. You had the Pillsbury Doughboy.
We found our own celebrities.
Yeah, the Green
So,
Giant.
yeah, exactly. So basically,
we're in Cannes. They're celebrities.
100%. I think by kind of zigging while everyone else was zagging and saying, we're not going to go get, 15 A-listers and try to outspend all the other competitors out there. We said, let's just really focus on a creative breakthrough idea that's true to our campaign or our campaign platform and true to the reality of our business, which is this marketplace business. And that's where the idea of finding the celebrities of the grocery aisles, the mascots, came to be. We realized that we didn't need big flashy celebs because we already had, to your point, the Doughboy, the Jolly Green Giant, the Old Spice man who's a celeb in his own right, and such a great cast of characters. And we could stay true to our storytelling, which is all about slice of life moments, those small moments that are really the big moments when you think about it. The story of the Super Bowl was a family trying to make pancakes that had run out of milk. And that's a small moment, but it's a huge thing to be able to enjoy a breakfast with your children and feel a lack of stress or pressure because you have all these heroes of the grocery store rushing to make sure you get that milk. And so we loved the ability to go to market, not just as our own brand, but in partnership with 11 different CPGs that really have brand fame that they've accrued, in some cases over more than 100 years, and use that to show the power of our platform.
We were just talking to the CMO of Kraft Heinz as well. And
Todd.
We were talking about the idea that now that you do have an Instacart, how it's another intermediary for the brand to get through, though, right? Because if you're asking, go get me ketchup, but you want Heinz ketchup, you need to have the brand in mind if they're going to buy you, right?
Absolutely. Todd was an amazing partner on this campaign. He got it immediately and had ideas and vision to help us make it even bigger than it was. So we partnered with him to bring the mascots to life IRL. So we did an integration with Jimmy Kimmel. We got the Wienermobiles on the road with the mascots inside and did a road trip to the two cities that were competing and ending in Louisiana, in New Orleans. And yes, I think that in the world of online grocery and instant delivery brand matters more than ever because it's really the value is getting exactly what you want. And if you want Heinz ketchup, no substitute will do. And so we have to commit as a brand to partnering with those CPGs to make sure that they are discoverable, that people can find all the different SKUs, that they can try new products, and that we'll always go above and beyond to make sure they get exactly what they want.
And I love the idea of you thinking of the brand campaign being able to work for all the pieces of the business that you need it to, the B2B piece and the customer piece. I think that that's really so important, right? That the idea of brand is not just whatever your commercial is saying.
Absolutely. It was technically a B2C campaign, but I think had a ton of B2B value. And what was very cool was seeing brands that weren't included coming to us and saying, hey, I want to do something with you. I want to do something like this. And actually, it really provided a template for the work that we are doing now going forward. What we learned from the Super Bowl, as I said at the beginning, is this idea that when we're all rowing in the same direction, we go faster and we have bigger, more impactful results. And so we said, too bad there's not a Super Bowl every quarter. People ask, would you invest in it again? And I'm like, yeah, I would invest in Q2. I would invest in Q3, but we don't get that opportunity. So we said, instead, we have to make our own weather, which is a term we've been using, which just means coming up with an idea that's big enough to draw people in, to make it feel substantial and to drive the focus of our internal team, as well as to attract the attention and demand of our partners to be a part of it. So we followed up the Super Bowl with our new summer campaign, the summer of 1999. And this speaks to both the cultural and economic nostalgia for the 90s that many of us feel, both us millennials that lived through it and even the faux nostalgia experienced by some of the Gen Zers that kind of are wistful for this idea of a simpler, more affordable, and frankly, just more fun time. So we said, okay, our platform is summer like it's 1999 with prices from 1999. And we went back and looked at the difference between the CPI today and in 1999, which is 47.2%, which was a little bit eye-popping.
Wow.
And we built a whole campaign around that. And we have a series of spots that really lean into 90s nostalgia, everything from flipping the Capri Sun and stabbing it from the bottom to, using a super soaker outside to making sure those bagel bites don't burn the roof of your mouth. So we really tapped into a lot of those kind of memories, those sensory aspects of the 90s, but paired it with this hardworking full funnel campaign delivering discounts in app. And following on the heels of the Super Bowl, we went out to advertisers that have kind of classically nostalgic 90s products, Capri Sun, bagel bites, et cetera, Otter Pops, and said, hey, we're going to do this campaign. Do you want to be a part of it? And the demand to be a part of it was huge. We had the same number of CPG partners for our summer campaign as we did for the Super Bowl, which is awesome. And we're really seeing huge traction. They're co-funding this, some of the incentives that we're offering, some of the promotions and discounts that we're offering to users. And so it's really a win-win because consumers get better prices. The brands get to really see renewed interest in their products. And we get to kind of be the convener of this moment of nostalgia.
So I was interested when you were saying paired with the full funnel integration. I wanted to back up a little bit and talk about what marketing metrics you're using, how hard that was to get it right, to make sure that you're capturing like the actual incrementality and the growth that you're achieving through the marketing.
Well, this could be an entirely
Yes.
different episode of our podcast because we have a very rigorous and I'll say complex way of measuring, but I'll try to boil it down. So one of the key shifts we had to make to get into full funnel was moving from obsessing over channel level ROAS to looking at portfolio level ROAS. And that has enabled us to really tap into that multiplier effect that WARC has written about by saying, you know what, we will commit to financial targets that we will hit, and we'll do that with a given budget. But the exact allocation we will set based on what we believe is the best outcome. And so far, we haven't missed yet. So it is really working. To your point on incrementality, of course, sitting underneath all of this is an incrementality adjusted attribution model. So we are still running incrementality tests at a channel level as well as cross channel. We actually did a test once where we turned off pretty much all of our marketing, which was a little scary, but really useful because it really does show the impact. But we have rigorous measurement at the core of it, and we're still looking at attributed metrics with incrementality adjustment on a channel level, and we're tuning our channels on a daily basis. But in terms of how we allocate the spend on a broad level and what our strategy is, we really do take the long view. So it's a longer term portfolio level ROAS that is achieved through obsessive tweaking and tuning of the lower funnel, coupled with big swings in the upper funnel, where we're of course measuring not only channel level attribution on television, but also brand lift, and in some cases doing counterfactual analysis to look at any halo that was not captured directly in our attribution window. So as I said, there's a lot that goes on under the hood, and I think that is the price that you have to pay as a marketer to get to do big, bold work. You have to sweat the details. You have to know your measurement cold. You have to go in front of the CEO, the CFO, the board, and be able to speak to all of it and be able to show the results. And that's how you earn the trust to be able to take big swings.
That's what I was going to ask next. You led into my question of like, how has the relationship with the CEO and CFO changed once you proved out those big swings?
It has been a process of building trust, taking incrementally bigger bets, moving from just lower funnel to doing more upper funnel, full funnel, then starting to get into high reach media and showing, okay, we can buy, these more premium placements, which, if you do the ROAS math, they don't look as good, but they provide this incremental reach and also this huge halo you can tap into, especially with the Super Bowl, where you have the whole conversational amplification that, doesn't get captured in an attribution model, but is certainly the reason that Super Bowl is actually like pretty efficient from a media standpoint. Interestingly, we did take all the numbers from Super Bowl and kind of did some back of the envelope ROAS math. And the overall Super Bowl campaign ROAS was pretty much on par with our portfolio average, which is really wild when you think about it. I think we might be the only brand ever to measure the ROAS of the Super Bowl. But it really did show that by making it full funnel, by going really hard on making sure it was in every channel on social and in the app, everywhere you looked, it was the same message coupled with conversion drivers, things like lower funnel and in-app promotions. That is really what made it a success. And I think by having, successively bigger swings and landing those swings and showing, yep, we said we would deliver this and we did, it enables us to keep pushing ourselves and to keep finding new ways to grow the business through marketing.
And so how do when you joined Instacart, was there a separate brand team and a separate performance team?
There was no brand team.
There was no brand team. So it was only performance team.
Yeah, there was a performance team. There was one woman who was spending probably 30% of her time on brand, and she partnered with me to write the business case for brand, for which we heavily referenced your guys' body of work, WARC's body of work. And at the time, I remember feeling so overwhelmed, saying, I know what I need to do. I know what it's going to take to be successful here. But I also felt like there were, in some ways, not as many resources as you might expect, given the huge amount of spend in the advertising industry, about how you can actually write the business case for brand. And so what I did is, again, looked at all of the amazing work you guys have published. I am a huge Byron Sharp devotee, and really internalized a lot of that, talked to a lot of other CMOs, looked at a lot of other materials out there, put together this business case for brand, and really treated it like a venture capital pitch. I live in San Francisco. A lot of my friends are venture capitalists. And I said, this is no different. I'm asking for money for a longer term payoff, and I'm just going to follow that model. And it worked, and we were able to prove it out. So it was really a challenge of collecting all the disparate marketers. I think they were spread across 4 or 5 organizations. You had the creative team embedded in a product design team in one part of the org, the performance marketers embedded in a data organization, this half a person working on brand and functions that didn't even exist. We didn't even have a product marketing team. We didn't really have a marketing research team. So there was a lot of building and a lot of unification. But in the end, now we really are one team and are all very bought into this vision of full funnel and of course, focusing on that end user, be it, a consumer, a business, but really bringing to bear who is that user and how do we use the entire funnel to reach them in a way that's relevant to them.
And so was there a shift that had to be made in terms of like the incentives that people were working towards, and how did that transition go?
There was definitely a shift. We had to make sure that everyone felt like we would win as a team. When everyone was, focused doggedly on their own channel's metric, then of course there's a lot of tension, right? And you can end up having it be a competition between different channel owners or different teams for resources, which is not the way you grow a business. So we had to do a lot of work to help people overcome their limiting beliefs. So a lot of the performance marketers had this limiting belief that if we let the brand team and creatives go wild with the work, that they would totally flout best practices and come up with crazy stuff that wouldn't convert, and their numbers would tank. And on the flip side, the brand and creative folks thought, oh, if we listen to the performance marketers, our work's gonna get watered down and we're gonna be forced into these templates and it's gonna be totally uninteresting. So we had to do a lot. We actually did a limiting beliefs workshop
Oh gosh.
specifically addressing this. And it took a lot of work to culturally get to a place where we do feel like a team, and really kind of had to go through a few cycles of not working that way and failing before we realized that, you know what, we're better together. And when we win, we all win.
So when I've talked to other people about the transition of trying to do that, some people say you could do it through like process by starting like a process throughout the company. So we're all just working differently, but it's an integrated effort. Or you can do it by actually organizationally merging teams. And it sounds like you actually had to pluck people. Did you pluck them out of other departments and now they're all under marketing? So it was an organization change?
All of the above.
Okay.
We had to find all the marketers. We had to unite them. Then we had to do and continue to do process overhauls. Processes. We say fixing process is like working out. You have to do it constantly, otherwise you atrophy, right? So we're always thinking about, is our process serving the work that we need to do, the way we need to work? And then again, part of it is truly cultural and attitudinal. And sometimes I joke that we had to do a little bit of group therapy to actually get to a place where we did feel like a team, because people came in with so many assumptions and fact patterns from previous employers, and they were carrying a lot of baggage about what they thought was and wasn't possible. And we really have had to kind of prove it to ourselves that this is possible. And that's why I love Super Bowl and why I love the 90s campaign, because the proof is in the pudding. Like we were able to make a campaign or series of campaigns that were truly full funnel, that are working. And that's the best way to get people on board with doing more of it.
So what's coming up for you in the next 12 months? Where is Instacart going after the summer of 99?
The next big idea. We're working on it right now. So this is always the fun part when you don't exactly know what's going to come out the other end. We do most of our creative work internally, so we get to have a front row seat to all of the ideation and iteration that goes into making a great campaign. So we've got an exciting fall ahead of us with some big ambitions, and then kind of going back into that kind of annual cadence of really looking for what are those best high reach moments. How can we keep evolving the platform while building equity in it? And how do we keep stretching the team, right? We've taken successively bigger swings. So thinking about what's the next big swing and how can we keep everyone growing and learning and having fun along the way.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Laura. I really look forward to seeing what Instacart does next.
Thanks so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Check out WARC's other effective CMO interviews by looking for the WARC podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of WARC's insights. I'm Ann Marie Kerwin, America's editor, and thanks for listening.